Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I beg to move the value-added tax miscellaneous amendments to Acts of Parliament EU Exit Regulations 2020 and the value-added tax miscellaneous amendments to the Value-Added Tax Act 1994 and Revocation EU Exit Regulations 2020. These are part of a package of measures connected to the UK's exit from the EU. These two instruments make a number of consequential and necessary changes in order to ensure that the VAT system continues and continues to operate as required following the end of the transition period. These instruments have been designed to ensure fairness, protect against double taxation and avoidance, and make certain that existing reliefs continue to apply following the UK's departure from the EU. Both instruments took effect at the end of the transition period. First, if I may, I will turn to the Value-Added Tax Miscellaneous Amendments to Acts of Parliament EU Exit Regulations 2020. This legislation makes three changes to the VAT Act 1994 and one to the Taxation Cross-Border Trade Act 2018. The first change applies to the VAT treatment of aircraft handling services. Until the end of the transition period, the VAT Act included a VAT zero rate for handling services supplied to aircraft operating on international routes. These included landing and housing fees, security and fire services. This zero rate band also applied to the handling and storage of goods carried in those aircraft, but only at a customs and excise airport. However, suppliers could previously rely on EU legislation in order to zero rate their services at non-customs and excise airports. This instrument therefore provides for the continuing application of this relief in UK legislation following the end of the transition period. Secondly, this instrument also includes a new VAT zero rate for the handling services supplied to international trains. This includes network track access, shunting and storage station and yard services, and light maintenance services, and the handling and storage of goods carried in trains. This measure aligns the VAT treatment of international trains with that of qualifying ships and aircraft. For ships and aircraft, services where the zero rate applies can only be carried out at a port or airport, but for international trains, these services could be supplied at various other sites along a rail route. This instrument therefore provides a power for the Commissioners for Revenue and Customs to specify those sites in a notice. This will ensure that the relief applies appropriately to trains. Thirdly, this instrument also makes a change that allows those supplying pension fund management services to funds established in the EU to recover the VAT they incur. Finally, this instrument removes a change made in the Taxation Cross-Border Trade Act 2018 to the VAT treatment of certain travel services. This change is no longer necessary because the subsequent Value-Added Tax Tour Operators Amendment EU Exit Regulations 2019 included a revision to the VAT treatment of these services. Mr. Deputy Speaker, if I may, let me turn to the second instrument to be debated today, the Value-Added Tax Miscellaneous Amendments to the Value-Added Tax Act 1994 and Revocation EU Exit Regulations 2020. This legislation includes four changes to the VAT Act 1994 and the revocation of an instrument laid in 2019 in connection with EU exit. First, the legislation makes changes to the DIY house builder scheme to place self-builders in Northern Ireland in the same position as those in Great Britain. The DIY house builder scheme allows people who construct their own dwellings, a relevant residential or charitable building, or who make a residential conversion, to claim the VAT back on certain building materials. This includes VAT incurred on imports. Under the Northern Ireland Protocol, materials bought by self-builders in Northern Ireland from suppliers in an EU member state may be subject to VAT in Northern Ireland. This instrument ensures that a DIY house builder in Northern Ireland can recover VAT charged on materials bought from a supplier in an EU member state. Secondly, this instrument allows HMRC to obtain information in relation to VAT owed by businesses and individuals in member states. Similar legislation applied to the whole of the UK until the end of the transition period. This reflected the requirement for mutual cooperation between member states in connection with VAT. The retention of this legislation, particularly in respect of Northern Ireland, is a requirement of the withdrawal agreement. Thirdly, this instrument contains measures to prevent unscrupulous businesses from avoiding import VAT. Under the government's commitment to unfettered access, goods in free circulation in Northern Ireland that are moved to Great Britain are relieved from duty and VAT on entry. However, UK customs legislation contains a provision to remove the duty relief if it is found that goods have been routed from an EU member state via Northern Ireland to Great Britain in order to avoid import duty. This instrument ensures that if the customs provision is triggered, the VAT relief will no longer apply as well. This instrument also prevents double taxation for businesses that make exempt supplies and that move goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. Finally, the instrument revokes the Finance Act 2011 Schedule 23 Data Gathering Powers Amendment EU Exit Regulations 2019, which was laid in the event of a no-deal scenario and is therefore no longer required. Mr. Deputy Speaker, these instruments provide a number of significant and necessary changes to ensure that the VAT system continues to operate as required following the end of the transition period. They will ensure fairness, protect against double taxation and avoidance, and make certain that existing reliefs continue to apply. I hope colleagues will join me in supporting this legislation, which I commend to the House.
The question is the motion relating to Statutory Instrument 2020 number 1312. As on the order paper, video link. James.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for the opportunity to respond